This video talk will be over the legislative branch of the state of Ohio. So again, we're talking about Ohio's government, and everything we know about our government comes from the Constitution. So if I were to ask you, why do we have a president of the United States? Your answer, well, the United States Constitution says we shall have a president. Why do we have a governor of Ohio? Well, the state constitution of Ohio says we will have a governor. The Constitution of Ohio also says that we will have a lawmaking body. It's referred to as the General Assembly. So the General Assembly would be the Ohio House of Representatives and the Ohio Senate. Now, these sound a lot like the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, but again, these are people who come to Columbus to make laws just for the state of Ohio. So when you see the word Ohio in front of it, it doesn't mean that they're from Ohio, although they are. It just means that they're making laws for Ohio. Compare that to a U.S. Senator from Ohio. There's a big difference. So we're going to be talking about the Ohio Senate and the Ohio House of Representatives that come together in Columbus in this Capitol building downtown and make the laws. So this chart we've seen before, we're going to focus on the legislative branch of Ohio's government. And the main responsibility of the legislative branch, as you know, is to make laws. They make laws for the entire state. The Ohio House of Representatives and the Ohio Senate together have to pass these laws. We have what we call a bicameral legislature, two houses making the laws for the state. So the General Assembly, the House of Reps for Ohio, and the Ohio Senate meet downtown. Maybe you've never really thought about it, but generally state buildings that are the Capitol building typically have two chambers, two separate buildings that are you can kind of see how they're separate there. One would be where the Ohio House of Representatives meets, and the other is where the Ohio Senate meets. And they're connected with some open space and maybe a rotunda in the middle. Ohio's Capitol building is a little bit different in that we don't have a dome. We have a drum or a cupola up top, and it makes our Capitol building stand out a little bit. But again, this is the location where they meet, but you can see the two buildings on each side, one on each side, to show it's a bicameral legislature or General Assembly. So let's talk about the Ohio House of Representatives. These people come from all over the state, and there are 99 of them. They make the laws for the state, along with the Ohio Senate. When they're elected, they serve for a 2-year term. You have to be at least 18 years old, but most people are older than that. But there's no top age, so you could be 102, but you have to at least be 18 to be in the Ohio House of Representatives. When you're elected, when you're sworn in, you'll be assigned a committee. And a lot of the work of our state government and the state legislature happens at the committee level. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. So again, 99 members, 2-year term, you have to be 18. You can have a variety of backgrounds. You don't have to, obviously at 18, you don't have a lot of experience, but let's say you're 50 years old when you're elected. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can be any profession, a farmer, a teacher, a dentist, doesn't matter. The group is made up of a wide variety of people with lots of different backgrounds. When you get elected, you'll be voting on a Speaker of the House. So generally it is basically the team captain of the majority party. So if there are more Republicans, they would pick the Speaker of the House. They also will pick a majority leader, so it's someone who's not quite the speaker yet, but is someone who is considered a leader in the party. Again, one of the team leaders. The minority party also gets to pick the team captain. They call that person the minority leader. And so these people are kind of important in terms of deciding who goes on what committee and when votes are taken on certain bills. You can also see from this chart that it is a little bit hard to tell where some of these districts are because there are 99 of them, and some of them look physically bigger, and that's because there's not as many people in that part of the state. So geographically it's bigger, but it's no more people than some of the smaller districts around our bigger cities that you can see around Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. So we've got the Ohio House of Representatives, and there are 99 of them. When you're elected, though, you would be assigned to a committee. This committee list covers pretty much every aspect of every bill that would be introduced. So if a bill is introduced dealing with farming, it would go to the Agriculture Committee. If a bill is introduced dealing with vaccines, it might go to the Health Committee. So the idea is that the entire group, all 99 representatives, are not going to hear the testimony of people who are for and against every bill. They would be doing that at the committee level. So a smaller group, maybe 8 to 10 of the representatives, would go to a committee and they would hear bills that relate to the area of their committee. So if you're changing some rules about insurance in the state of Ohio, it would go to the Insurance Committee. If it's something to do with highways, it would go to the Transportation Committee. So all of these committees handle pretty much every bill that's introduced. If a bill is not a popular bill, it will not make it out of the committee because the committee will vote on it. And if the committee doesn't vote in favor of it, then it dies. But if it does somehow make it out of the committee, then it goes to the entire House of Representatives for a vote, which, if you get that far, there's a good chance it could pass, but you just never know. The other side of the bicameral legislature is the Ohio Senate. The Ohio Senate also makes laws for Ohio, but there are only 33 of the senators, so it's generally considered the upper house. And the way we work it out is for every one senator, there are 3 reps, right? So there are 99 House reps, 33 senators. So inside each senator's district, there are 3 reps. It's a 4-year term. And again, you can be 18 or older. You don't have to have any training. If the people of your district want to vote for you, you can be a dentist, you can be a teacher, you can be a plumber. It does not matter if the people vote for you. You just have to be a U.S. citizen and 18 years of old and have a residence in that district. And again, the committee's very similar to the House of Representatives. If you're voted in, you are assigned a committee by the leadership, and it's in those committees that you hear bills once they've been assigned to the committee. You can see the leadership is a little bit different from the House of Representatives in that they use some different words, but the president of the Senate is this basically the leader, the team captain of the majority party. Same thing with his assistant, the president pro tempore is one of the leaders of the majority party, and the majority leader obviously is one of the leaders of the majority party. Now, the minorities, let's say that it might be the Democrats or Republicans, they could say, we want our person to be the Speaker of the House, our party person to be the Speaker of the House, but obviously they're in the minority, so they're never going to win the vote. It's the people, the party that has the majority that gets to decide who's the president pro tempore, and who's the majority leader. But again, probably the president of the Senate really decides what bills go where to the committees and when and if there's going to be a floor vote, an entire Senate vote on bills that have passed through the committee. So when I look at this map of the Ohio Senate, you see the districts are bigger, and that's because they represent more people. And in each one of these Senate districts, there are 3 representatives. So we have a 3-to-1 ratio. And if you look at the Senate's committees, it seems like there are a lot less, well, because there's a third less people, 2/3 less people. They only have 33 senators, so they need committees that cover maybe a little bit more of a spectrum of topics. So again, if you're interested in introducing a vaccine bill, it might go to the Health Committee, whereas something about adding 40 minutes to the school day for a kid in high school would go to the Primary and Secondary Education Committee. It just depends on what the bill is. But if you look at this chart about how a bill becomes a law, very similar to the U.S. process in the U.S. Congress, but for the state of Ohio, there's a few slight differences. So the idea is a bill is introduced. Once it's introduced, depending on what it deals with, it is assigned to a committee. So we'll just assume that this starts in the House of Representatives, but it could start in the Senate. But in the Ohio House of Representatives, if it's dealing with, say, pesticides and farming, it would go to the Agriculture Committee. And there, people would come speak for and against the bill. The members of the committee would debate it. And after a while, after 2 or 3 hearings, they would vote on it. And when they vote on it, if it does not pass the committee, then it's dead. But if it does pass the committee, then it goes to the entire House of Representatives for a vote. If it passes the entire Ohio House of Representatives, then that process starts all over in the Senate, assigned to the Agriculture Committee because it's a pesticide bill or a farming bill. And then that smaller group of senators would debate it. People would come speak for, people would come speak against it, and then that committee would vote on it. If it passes the committee, which it may not, but if it does, it goes to the Ohio Senate for a vote. Many bills don't make it past the committee. They vote something down either in the House or in the Senate, it's dead. But if it does make it through both chambers, the House and the Senate, then it goes to the governor, where the governor could sign it and it becomes law after a couple, 3 months. But if the governor vetoes it, then the General Assembly could override the veto with 3/5 majority. And that's different from the U.S. Congress. In the U.S. Congress, you need 2/3 to override a president's veto. In Ohio, you need 3/5 of the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate to override the governor's veto. So that's why there's a yellow star on that chart, just to point out that that's a main difference. But it's basically the same process. You need to get an idea through the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate, and the governor has to sign it for it to become a law. So everything you see on this slide, speed limits or hunting license, or whether or not you have to be vaccinated, or the state bird is the cardinal, or the state flower is the carnation, or the state frog is the bullfrog, or what license plate looks like, all of those were laws that were passed by the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate, signed by the governor. So it's a complicated process. It's supposed to be long. It's supposed to take a lot of energy, and it's supposed to be very thorough. So people talk about government gridlock and how long it takes to get things passed. Well, that's exactly what the people of Ohio and the founding people of Ohio wanted, because it's during that process that people can come speak for and against things, and you can hear testimony, and the representatives and the senators can then weigh what they've heard and then cast their vote in a way that they think is best for Ohio.